All right, good evening, everyone. It is Monday, January the 22nd at 5 p.m. The EDC Board reserves the right to reconvene, recess, or realign the regular session or call executive session or order of business at any time prior to adjournment, and I will call the meeting to order. So, do we have any public comments today?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, very good. We will move on to 3.A. Discussion and possible action on Resolution R 2023-0015, passed by the BEDC Board on November the 13th, 2023, terminating the sale of 9.52 acres parcel of property located at 108 South Jackson Street in Bastrop County.
Good afternoon, Board. There's no action that is required on this. I did reach out to the judge's executive assistant. They are in receipt of the letter terminating the agreement. There was no follow-up as of the date of the packet, so we're going to consider the agreement complete.
Excellent. All right. Good deal. All right, then we'll move on to 3B, presentation and discussion. 3B, presentation and discussion of the results of the Insightful Targeted Industry Analysis Report.
So first I'll start off by saying, wasn't too insightful. Thank you. But we did receive a 50% discount because the report was late and not very insightful. To give the consultant credit, things are moving very quickly, so it is very difficult to get a snapshot in time of what is going on in our area. That being said, part of the discussion with this is we did meet with Smithville Workforce to go over some data that Smithville has and that's also presented in the report, and discussed how best we can go about partnering and collaborating more. And so the goal of the report, we'll go through some of the highlights, but you've read the book and you probably have the autograph that says you do a SWOT analysis. The Smithville folks have a lot of firepower and are working toward some goals that I think align with EDC goals. And so the goal is next month we have a collaborative meeting that talks about how we not duplicate effort or resources and how we can supplement and begin to create real training opportunities for the companies that are here and the companies who want to come here. If you recall, this was supposed to be an industry gap analysis. This was supposed to be what industry is here, what aren't we feeding those industries, and then what resources do we have available that makes industry want to come here. It gave a little bit of information. I mean, Angela had to correct the labor shed on a couple of instances and some of the industry that was identified. For example, they had left off biomedical. And that's a big thing happening in Austin. They identified the labor shed, they checked industry, but what we were looking at was who's here and what does that mean? So for example, L&S Electric, who's coming into the park, and Accutronic, who's going into the park. What spin-off side industry are they going to need? Are there specialty gaskets? Are there other things that we can begin to pursue or assist to make sure that our corporations are successful? We didn't receive that in this report. We did receive some pretty interesting information about who travels here. It is a lot further than I think any of us thought who travels to work here. So as we move forward and look toward transportation needs, this is a key highlight. Some of this demographic statistics you've already seen before in some of our other reports on who's here, how many, we have a large number of college degree professional folks who work here and travel here to work. And we actually have decent income levels among the professionals who work here, which leads us to the home affordability index later on in other indicators. Folks are able to afford their homes more in Bastrop than they would perhaps in a higher expensive area of a region in Austin. That's not to say that our folks aren't struggling. That's not to say there is not a disproportionate need among some of the income levels. That's just to say this impacts the overall affordability. So when we see those housing attractions, when we see the houses at $300,000 and $400,000, that's not really considered affordable among a minimum working two-family income. But our stats and what our professionals are showing and are being paid ends up leading into all of that. More of that. Key findings, again, I love the fact that they say, go a-hunting yourself. Lesson learned. I think this will, unlocking our, oh, no, I'm not moving. Nope, I'm stuck, Cece. One more over. Okay. So unlocking, I mean, obviously things we already know. We're in the Austin labor market. That's geographically important. The industrial park could be great if and when things were built out. We're in a unique position. There's further development for research and training, and Elon Musk is having an influence. So challenges and opportunities, again, not to beat a dead horse, but available land and infrastructure, housing, infrastructure, water, sewer, fiber, adult and child care. That's going to become a recurrent topic, and Smithville Workforce is also looking to address those issues. Support services, they obviously didn't know we've revamped development services, so. And then can public support, and this is also going to rear its head as we begin to talk about incentives and development and what are our residents willing to bear. So some of our ROI discussions will be more slanted toward, are we even going to break even if we incentivize that? And then wage and benefit considerations. As we talked about the last recent round of incentives, making sure that folks are paying not just a living wage, but a wage that's commensurate to be able to live in Bastrop. SWOT analysis, I think that's every graduate level course or every senior level course. Long-term strategies, marketing content, go hunting yourself. List of companies was included in the report, and use professional site selectors. In conclusion, any questions?
Yeah, sorry to be a little bit of a cynic here, but I don't really think we got what we paid for or what we asked for. So my question to you is, are we going to get back with them and let them know that this is almost unacceptable as far as my opinion is concerned? It's really not great by any stretch. Number one. We did.
We actually had legal involved.
Okay.
That presented a letter, and the discount came shortly thereafter.
All right, then let me follow up with this. Wouldn't it be prudent of us to maybe look at another company to come in and see if we can't really get what we're wanting to get, which is a real competitive analysis and a gap analysis?
I think the list of companies is a good place for us to start, to at least see who's here, and then we can compare, what is it, NACE codes? We can compare the codes. I think the meeting with Smithville Workforce will be also informative. Who is it that's locating here? Who needs the employees, and how does that match up to our list? So I don't necessarily know that we're ready to go out just yet. Once we have more data points, I think we can be clearer on what it is our expectations are.
And when I discussed it with Sylvia, I know that it's not what we wanted, but it does give us some food for thought. So let's say we have a workshop and we start talking about what is it that we want here in Bastrop. Do we want a Samsung? Because they're a heavy water user. Do we want EV batteries? Things like that really you don't need it somebody telling the board, right, how you feel about it. Y'all can discuss it amongst yourselves and decide, is that something we want here in Bastrop?
No, I mean, I get that point, we can always have the ability to talk amongst us and try to get best, information from here, but we are hiring somebody to go out and give us a much more global look at what is coming this way, what do we have to offer that can entice people to get here, and I just get the feeling that we didn't get anything. Look, I think it's a great idea. We're talking with Smithville and going to have a joint meeting with them to talk about training and whatnot, but that's really not what this was supposed to be. This was not supposed to be of who do we want to train, what kind of industries do we want to train for. This was something completely different. So, I'm just really kind of disappointed. I'm sure everybody else here is pretty disappointed at the lackluster report here. Okay, I'll get off my high horse here.
I just have a real quick question. Do you feel like we got our 50% worth?
No.
And are we going to move forward with trying to receive this?
50% worth
If the
Or
board
more
would.
of a discount?
If the board would like me to pursue that, I can work with legal to pursue further. I mean, I can certainly communicate that the board was disappointed more than 50% with the results, and then we can communicate that. And if the board wants to take action at the next meeting, we can certainly do that too. But for now, I can certainly communicate that, and legal can help.
Personally, I feel like as good stewards of our money that if we feel like we didn't receive 50% of what we expected, that yes, we would get legal involved and go back and ask for either our money back, or if we haven't paid them yet, then to be released.
Well, we paid them, I believe we paid them a third.
A third is start, and then the remainder is 8,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So they actually wanted much more money up front, and we said no. They wanted a site visit. We said, sure, when you come and present to the board. So we had already cut away some things, but I'm certainly happy to go back and revisit with the company and say the board was more than 50% disappointed. Okay.
And I guess, Sylvia, the follow-up question would be, as staff, what percentage do you think is reasonable for the work that was presented?
Maybe 25%,
There you go.
maybe.
But definitely not 50.
No, not when Angela's having to correct the watershed or the labor shed, and Angela's having to correct industry. And Angela's having to say, hey, by the way, did y'all look at this? Oh, did you read the Austin Journal about this? So,
Do we, I guess this is a legal question, do we really need to wait till the next meeting before we ask you to go ahead and follow up with this to push?
we can work with, legal and I can work. I think we'll need to wait till the next meeting if the council, if the board decides to take any more action. We can certainly begin by sending a letter. Anything beyond that would require your next board meeting. Lee?
That sounds good to me. Yeah, we'll just work with staff.
Okay.
I have one last question. So in our ask of them, do we have, or can we get a copy of what we asked of them?
Sure.
To ensure that we were specific in what we asked for and they just didn't deliver. I'd like to see what we actually asked for.
Sure.
Thank you, yeah.
We had the ask and then a couple of meetings to be specific. So, okay.
Any further comments? Okay. Thank you very much. We will move on now to individual items for consideration, 4.A. Approval of the meeting minutes from the regular BEDC board meeting of November 13th, 2023, and the special board meeting of December 7th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those not in favor? Okay, very good. Motion carries. All right, thank you very much. 4.B, receive financial report for periods ending September 2023 and October 23 and November 2023.
I consolidated some things in the PowerPoint just to try to make it easy. This is how we ended the year, 4.1 in working capital as of 9/30, with reserve required of $1.2 million. So as you can see, the fund is still healthy, even with those encumbrances, the funding commitments that you'll see on later slides. I'm going to jump to November 30th, because that's the more recent. Sales tax revenue was up about 3.2% over the same period last year. And we had forecast, for example, in November, we had forecast 350,000, and we received 343. But October was a bang-up month. We forecast 301,000, and we received 356. So year over year, we're still above board by about, 55 minus 7? 48,000? Oh, 47,405. The number's down at the bottom of the screen, sorry. And we did engage with HDL. Beginning next month in executive session, we will be going over some very detailed taxpayer reports that will begin to help us plan better financially on who received what, who is perhaps delinquent, and perhaps doing some stopgap measures as necessary for business support. Any questions?
I have a question just for, I don't know if I'm reading it wrong or what, and I kind of copied and pasted some things, but for September, I think I'm on like page 35 or something. I thought I wrote it down. Yeah, maybe page 35. So it says for September, it has like total fund. If you scroll through the screens, I can maybe, so you can see what I'm looking at.
Yeah, this is not the packet, this is a PowerPoint.
Oh. Well, in the packet, it says for September 23rd, total fund 601 Bastrop EDC fund. I'm not sure which page that is on, but it's on like a, kind of like a spreadsheet. And it says beginning balance is 4,911,000, total activity 47,756, and then ending balance is 49,59. That total activity, is that revenue coming in or going out? Because it looked to me on the report like the total activity was money that expenses, not revenue.
What
But
page of the report are you on?
to around page 35. On the detail report.
Okay.
Is that where it is? I noted 35, so somewhere in there, but.
So these are detailed reports of dollars going out.
So that's my question, because it says the beginning balance was 4911, and then for September 2023, total activity was 47, and it added it, not
Yes.
subtracted it.
So at the top, we had revenues come in, and then we went through expenses, and we ended that particular month at 4959. We started the month at 4911. We had money come in. We also had a good chunk of expenses go out, and then we ended at
And we
4959.
still ended ahead. That's what I just wanted to be sure, because
Yes,
there
we're
was a lot of
still-
itemization there,
we're
and I
still
couldn't
good.
figure out what was coming in and what was going out.
Yes,
So I
we're
just
still
wanted to
good.
make sure that wasn't an error. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Sylvia, anything further on this?
No.
Okay, very good. Any questions, any other comments? All right, very good. All right, moving to 4.c, discussion and possible direction to staff to further discussion on a proposed training facility and partnership with Smithville and Texas State Technical College.
So part of this is the result of the report and our meeting with Smithville to make sure, again, we're not duplicating services. We learned from Smithville that they are far along a road in trying to engage Texas State Technical. And so we want to be supportive of those efforts. Many of you are not aware, but ACC has I don't want to call it a monopoly, but an education-opoly, I guess is what I'll call it. We are in their service area, so another college or entity cannot provide service unless approved by ACC. There are some things that Smithville Workforce has identified as needs that ACC either does not completely provide or does not end up in a certification the way their grant says it needs to end up. And so they have begun discussion with Texas State Technical, and they're also talking to the state rep about some assistance in that legislation that will allow us to better partner with Texas State Technical to do the things like welding, to do the things, there's some discussion about an LVN course and similar. So that meeting, we are looking to schedule a workshop next month. And the workshop would be two-part. One, to discuss the training facility as it relates to this, and to talk about the budget and where you stand and what projects need to be called off the agenda.
Do we have a date for that joint meeting?
I would love to take a poll today. So the normal board meeting date would have been February the 19th, except it's President's Day, yeah.
We don't get it off, but a lot of people are out.
Yeah. So February 20th is a Tuesday. It's available. We don't have an evening meeting on the 20th. So if the EDC would so like to do a 20th meeting,
Are you expecting a large agenda for the meeting on the 26th? Could doing it on our regular meeting be a backup date?
sure. On the 26th, I was really only considering action items that would have come from the workshop.
Oh, okay. So you'd like to have some time, some space between workshops?
And if not, I mean, we can still do it on the same day. It's just a quick turnaround time from legal, and if he's on his toes and can write it out quickly, and I have faith Lee can.
I'm okay on the 20th.
I mean, I'm okay with the 20th myself.
Yeah, 20th is good consensus here.
Okay. Would it be possible to ask to get some kind of a summary prior to that meeting so that we, the
Yes.
directors here, are a little more informed of where they are currently, what are they looking at, so we can be a little bit more prepared for the meeting? At least I would like to be more
Sure,
prepared for it.
sure. That, for a meeting on the 20th, the agenda would normally post on the 15th. Do you want it earlier than that?
I don't know about earlier than that. I just mean I'd like to be informed about what, the current status is and who they've been working with and what kind of progress have they been made since they received that grant, I believe, some
Okay.
time ago.
Okay. We'll endeavor to have that agenda out on the 13th.
Great, thank you. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's in reading the packet, I'm a little bit concerned they have the training without the certification. Is there some way we can see what they're working toward to get the certification of various training? Because sending somebody through the training without having the certification at the end of it is kind of a futile exercise.
And that, in discussion with Smithfield Workforce, that is some of what they're experiencing is they end up with a welding completion, but they don't end up with a certified welding course. They just end up with a certificate of completion.
From ACC.
From ACC. And so, obviously, going out into the workforce, the employer wants a certified welder. So it's some of those little nuances. The grant that they are operating under also has specific requirements, so.
They have a pretty detailed website, so if you haven't already looked at their website, that'll give you a lot of background as well. It's miraculously under Smithfield Workforce. So it's not hard to find.
So question for you. You mentioned the educational monopoly that ACC has. Does that mean that they have to sign off on us working with Texas State?
If it's a
Technical
course that,
college?
yes, if it's a course that ACC offers, we're required to go through ACC.
Okay, got it. And this says the recommendation schedule a joint meeting including ACC. Do we anticipate them being available or being present or?
I'm hopeful.
Hopeful, okay.
I'm hopeful.
What's their responsiveness or attitude towards this discussion so far?
So Smithville has not had negative responses. They do try to pivot and they do try to adjust. But again, some of their adjustment is, okay, here is a cert from ACC. Well, that doesn't meet the grant requirements and that doesn't meet the employer requirements. And that's where they've reached their plateau. We actually have a staff member who teaches for ACC these very classes, and they are very short-staffed, and so he's actually leaving their employ and just coming and working with us, and so that's the other is what's offered, what time and where, and do they have an instructor to be able to be available.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things that we also need in our hands is the information about what the state law allows EDC to spend money on for this purpose. You know, the affiliation with the let's say, Institute of Higher Learning, or specific businesses that have,
Yes.
you know, there's a list, and so we just need to make sure that we're not targeting something that doesn't fit into that list.
Yes, and to that end, Smithville Workforce, which is, I'm glad for their partnership because they've done all of the heavy lifting. Some of the shortages that are in the workforce, Smithville Workforce has actually letters of intent to hire. If you can graduate 30, I will take 30. I'm that busy. So they've already leveraged that. Our greatest leverage would be how can we assist that so that we're not recreating the wheel or trying to create another program where one already exists.
Is the Smithville Workforce based off of any EDC dollars, or
No, they
it's
received a
different,
federal
right?
grant.
Okay.
They've got some city funding, but they also have a really awesome staff member who helps write grants. So they are aggressive in that pursuit.
But then logically, they may be able to do things that this body can't do based
Yes.
around the laws that we're working with. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
From a workforce development, though, I think the attorney would back up that that's clearly, I mean, we have to be careful and the devil's in the details, but workforce development is clearly under the umbrella of the EDC. And I think it's worth mentioning that Austin Community College is listed as one of their partners, so they clearly have a working relationship with them.
And does the Smithville Workforce, do they, I think you answered it, you might have answered it, they do work, job placement, they help them
Yes.
with job placement?
They do training and job placement, and they do Lee, Fayette, and Williamson counties, not just Bastrop County. Bastrop, Lee, and Fayette, sorry. Bastrop, Lee, and Fayette counties.
All right, well, looking forward to receiving that summary then. That'd be great. Okay, if there's no other further questions, then we'll move on to 4D, discussion and possible action on terminating the existing professional service agreement with Doucette and Associates to perform engineering work on the southern portion of the Bastrop Business and Industrial Park.
Well, Board, we've come to a fork in the road. After the vote passed, the budget was significantly reduced. It is my opinion this was a very heavy engineering endeavor to go down. This was a $1.6 million contract. If you think that, if you do the math, that engineering services are typically 12 to 15% of the total cost of the project, then we were already faced with a $16 to $20 million completion of the industrial park at the onset. That would have been debt. The board would have had to decide to engage or some other funding mechanism. That was going to be difficult with $4.4 million, and it is downright impossible with $1.1 million. So the time has come to make a decision on severing the agreement. We have already expended our last math that we asked Doucette to give us a full accounting. We were close to $500,000. So there is some savings to be had that would go back into the EDC fund, and it is strictly at this point in time a matter of the mathematics.
So then I take it you're wanting us to go ahead and give you the authorization to write a letter of termination on the
Yes.
contract? Okay.
Oh, the letter's already included in the packet.
Ah.
You need to sign it. Somebody needs
Yeah.
to sign it.
Yeah, okay. Then I guess we'll need a motion to approve that.
Move to approve.
We need a second.
Second.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Chair.
those?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We probably need to do this via resolution. If I could have the resolution that Mr. Simmons wrote.
Oh.
I know it came in late, so it's not spelled out on the agenda, but it's in the packet. It's 2024-0001.
Do they have a copy?
2024.
The packet says 2023, just FYI.
Darn it.
We have a new, don't we have a new resolution?
So read off that resolution number again. Oh.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to read it off if you'd like to hear it.
If you would, please, just so we know what it is.
Sure.
Sorry, we had a couple drawn up for a couple of actions the board could have taken.
Okay. Okay, so it is our 2024-0001, then it would be the resolution. So I will ask that the motion be given again, please, with the correct resolution number.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resolution number R-2024-0001.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those not in favor? Very good. All right, motion is approved for the resolution. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, excellent. Okay. All right, 4E, discussion and possible action on update of the business park utilities and roads as it relates to the Accutronics site.
Thank you, Chair. This is actually, this is an FYI item that will come back to you next month. I just needed to give the board an update. This is the Accutronic site. This is the 13 acres that we reconfigured because of the easement. This is Financial Way.
Yeah.
This is Financial Way. This is the piece that'll give MoCA access to their property. It will also give Accutronic access to their property. We have a preliminary site discussion with Accutronic, which requires a second point of ingress and egress for fire. That is going to be down at the southern section, which means technology ends right about here. We'll have to create a crossing to give Accutronic a small driveway in and out to be able to get around and be able to meet the fire requirements for the site. They're already accessing water and sewer off of technology and up in the northern section. So I believe it may just be road that needs to be created, but I wanted to give the board a heads up that we would be back with you next month with a opinion of a better probable cost on this small segment of road. We also wanted to give the board a heads up and get a warm and fuzzy from the board before we talk to Florian, because he's already anxious for space. He's already looking at purchasing a second building in there. If we can tell him that this will be done a lot sooner, it gives him the potential to be up a lot quicker with his design plans on the site.
Do we have any kind of an estimate, even if it's a ballpark, just to give us an idea of what you believe the cost may be? And I'm assuming that's about, what, 200 feet, maybe 300 feet of road?
So yes, my swag, this piece of Financial Way is a little over $1 million. We don't need that big of a piece, so my estimate here was about $250,000.
We'd really need to wait until you get a fairly, or direct you to continue looking
Yes.
into this and getting some bids and things like that. So the next time we meet, we'll be able to actually have a detailed discussion. Would that be
Yes.
fair?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
please? So it's not final platted and the alignment's not done, and we're getting ready to have a conversation about what the rest of that would look like, and about the most inefficient way that you can build a road is 200 feet at a time. And if it's for a second egress, is there something to be said for having like 3x5 rock, a construction, something across where when the alignment's done, you build that 200 feet of road when you're building the rest of the road, and so that you get some leverage from having more done at one time.
Sure. The other possibility is give them a variance to only have one entrance for a period of time until this segment is complete.
And you could put in a temporary construction easement that could be used so that the variance comes with a construction easement, and then
Sure.
maybe there's,
That's a good idea.
that's a really inefficient way
Yes.
to build a road. Super expensive.
Were you suggesting, like, crushed granite pad or something, since it's for fire and it's for emergency and limited
They'll do
use?
better with 3x5 rock. Crushed granite,
Oh,
you'll
okay,
spin
no,
in.
fair enough. So you were suggesting like a rock-type product. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was.
Think
not clear on.
about
Yeah.
what you see in a gabion that's not in a gabion. Think about
Bull rock.
when we went to the apartments that were being built by the high school, that construction rock entrance,
Yeah,
it's an
yeah, yeah.
all-weather, all vehicles,
Mm-hmm,
and it'll last it's just a whole lot cheaper, and then you won't be fighting, oh gosh, I wish it was a little bit this way or that
Sure.
way.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was an option. I'm just
I
trying to
hadn't even
save
thought of
money.
that, to be perfectly honest with you. My conversation had been fire needs two ways in and out. So that's a very good recommendation. That'll save a lot of money.
Do we have to get some kind of an easement or permission to cross that pipeline or whatever? I believe that's a pipeline, right?
So there's already a road platted through there. We already have some rights across the road.
Okay, so nothing extra then to put in what
No, there
has been
should be.
suggested here. Okay. I think it's a great idea too. I mean, I can support that. So I guess we need to give you authorization to continue on that discussion and come back to
Yes.
get us an idea of the overall cost that we can talk about.
We'll bring it back in the February
Very good.
timeframe.
Okay, super, thank you. All right, then we will move on to 4F.
If it's under my authorization to spend, I may as well just approve it and not have to bring it back to the board.
Oh, okay,
We'll see. Hopefully, it's that cheap.
okay, hey, cool. All right, fun one. Discussion and possible action on a proposed regional sports facility. Years in the making.
So, yeah, it's all me. Going back to the Garver report that listed a regional sports facility as economic development, and then also the Park and Rec master plan, the stars have sort of started to come into alignment about needs, and the industrial park property serves as a perfect backdrop for some of this. I included the most recent report, which is in the Park and Rec master plan. They did some pretty intensive detail work. This is only a small excerpt. The Parks and Rec master plan is posted online if you'd like to see it on the Parks site, or I can include the link in an email. Essentially, after Accutronics, the lower portion of the park has about 80 acres to work in. Not all 80 acres is buildable. We have toad habitat in this particular area, and the topography in this particular area is also challenging. And so this would be a really nice hike and bike trail to work through. This is just a conceptual layout. This is not anything that, the chair asked me today, how many parking spaces? I said, I don't know. I didn't count them. But we did already make some suggestions about needing a little bit more separation from the Accutronic site. And we talked about the potential of adding 2 additional courts here for tennis/pickleball. But the intent is a regional sports facility that is an economic development tool that drives those sports here for competitive sports and then begins to build on itself. This coupled with, we have several hotels planned in various stages of development already through the development process. And so one of the ideas is a venue tax that has to be posed to the voters. The earliest we could do something like that is the November timeline. That's 2% of a venue tax added to the hotel rooms that our visitors pay, and that would generate about $1.7 million. There is some reallocation of hot funds. There are state of Texas grants. And more importantly, there is a public-private partnership that would include some licensing, and it would include a third-party operator. This is going to be at a minimum a tri-party agreement between the city, the EDC, and a third-party provider, and potentially an operator. One of the most expensive things about this is staffing it, right, and operations and programming. That's where the third-party operator comes in. That's where that person comes in who's able to perhaps charge for parking during large events, or those registration fees and those kinds of things, concessions. We reached out to Kemper Sports, who is a industry leader through various cities. They're working with some cities in Texas right now to help us create an RFP to put that out on the street. Kemper said this is such a attractive project, they didn't want to help with the RFP because they thought they would submit for the project. So we already have some interest already generated. They turned us on to a group in Florida who also said, ooh, I don't know that I want to help you with that because we too would probably submit. So the opportunities are there. How we plan it, that's an entirely different segment. Stantec, who is the company who did the Parks and Rec master plan, helped lay this out. They laid this out with discretionary funds that they had. It is my opinion I'd like to go out for an RFQ for a different engineer who specializes in this type of work, who can bring something that's a little bit more detailed, because this is a flat file. This doesn't really show a whole lot of anything. I don't know what elevation those sports pads are at or anything. But it does give me an idea of what could potentially be laid out that's required in a facility of this size. It does include an Olympic-sized pool, and anchored is what we're calling a recreation center. So there is city participation that would be required here as well. So opinion of probable cost on something like this is about $66 million. That doesn't include contingencies or engineering or anything like that. So just to give you a warm and fuzzy, $3 million in revenue pays for about a $55 million note. So a venue tax, 1.6 or so, you're halfway there. And then any additional hot funds and reconfiguration of hot funds, you're 75% there. And then partnership level and city sponsorship. But the devil is in the details.
Can I ask you a question? Speaking of details, and I know enough to be dangerous, I believe when we went for the zoning change on this, that there was a requirement that there be a buffer because those are homes on the other side. So, and I know it's just a conceptual plan, but I don't think those fields can go all the way to the property line. And that's, if I remember correctly, that zoning had, and I don't remember if it was 100 feet or 70 feet. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't forget.
Oh, you got it down to 75? Okay.
So I have a question also. The Stantec did this, and they did just a real quick, flat drawing, as you said. Are you suggesting that we pay to have another company do it, or does the developer that it wants to come in and do the whole project, that they pay for it? I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that.
So a developer would end up doing that. I mean, I would want to work with a engineer who can give me a better idea if this is even feasible. Stantec has laid it out, but I don't, to Board Schrader, did they even meet the setback, or was this just a first-year CAD drawing? So there's some devil in the detail that we need to work out, that when we put it out on the street, we need to know what is able to be put on that so that we're not short-changed on the back end.
That'd be great. I think it's a wonderful idea myself. I really do.
There's a few other things going on in this particular area, specifically across from 71. We have a development project who has a large amount of trails throughout their development behind the Buc-ee's. The city owns property between the Buc-ee's and the Mayfest Park that would serve as a nice trailhead. So you begin to have connection among the park systems on that side of the world, and then connect through the highway back to the river loop, and then back around into Fisherman and Ferry Park. So there's some prime opportunities that we can capitalize now as development is in its prime in this particular part of the city to make sure that we acquire the trails and necessary park space.
So when we had the executive committee meeting earlier today, you made the point of one of the other details will be just how much the community has access to it.
Yes.
Because really, this is economic development, this is about regional kind of things, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be zero, but it also is not going to be 100%. And I believe the comment you made was, it's a step, but this is not
Correct.
the city's recreation center.
Correct. This is a step because as it's a proportionate share that the city has to contribute, so let's say the city contributes 10%, that would probably gain us 10% access in terms of programming. And given that the fact that we're looking at a third-party operator, it's not that the city wouldn't have access, but we'd have to work with the operator. We talked to the assistant city manager in Henderson, Nevada, who's going through the very same thing with Kemper Sports. They actually have about a $40 million facility that they are working through. And they did small rec areas throughout their growing city. This is just one area of need, right? And so as we move on and we grow other development areas, there's, oh my goodness, west of Pearl River, there's 2,000 homes. We still have to negotiate the parkland. South of Pearl River is another 2,500 homes. We have to negotiate the parkland. So this is not the end-all be-all solution, but it's a good first step.
Absolutely, and everyone loves seeing the pool, but it's, one would think that the owners would be wanting that pool to have competitive swim meets on the weekends in the summer, and it's not the solution to having the community have access to a pool. Now, and you had talked about, I believe this morning you mentioned you'd want to have a cover on
an
it, so it could
auditorium.
be year-round. So I'm not, I mean, it's awesome, but I just want us to set expectations.
So my experience in tri-party agreements as it relates to this particular space is Corpus Christi. So we had a partnership with the school, we had a partnership with the ISD, and then we had a partnership with the semi-pro folks in the area, not pro, but the league club folks. The city was able to program some classes during the week, and the city had to man the lifeguards, and the city had to man the instructors for those courses. It was then, the largest user was the school. The school held it for competitive meets, and then it was also leased out to club sports. And so we did have a proportion of time, and that was proportion to our sponsorship of the event. Same type of thing here.
Any further questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Very cool.
Yeah, very, very nice. That'd be fantastic. Okay, 4G, update on BEDC funding commitments.
Okay, before we go any further, I just saw a typo that I made. Thank you very much. On third arrow, it said the replat was approved at P&Z on 1/21/23. It's missing a 2. That was 12/21/23. So the things that have changed significantly since the last time, just pretty much stay the same until something changes. Super glue, which is technical adhesives, is getting ready to lay their concrete foundation as soon as the weather clears up and behaves. As you probably remember from the last time Sylvia spoke, Fiesta or Colson LLC, we are in the middle of trying to amend that agreement. We had a meeting with them last week, but the weather got in the way of that too, so we are trying to reschedule that one. MoCA, did you want to add anything on MoCA?
MoCA did submit, and MoCA is in the process of doing some borings, but the board gave them extension to July of 2024 to begin construction. It's possible, but it's not probable. And we will need to have that discussion in February. You have granted 2 extensions already.
And I've got the other attorney, Allison, who wrote the agreement, looking into it as well, so that we know what the clawback situation is on that. On Financial Way, the construction has begun, but has been put on hold because of the weather. It keeps affecting everything. I believe Sylvia has an update on Jackson Extension, as in...
Wait.
Yes, ma'am.
The entire 100% purpose of Financial Way
Mhm.
is,
I know.
so is there, what are we doing?
That contract's been let, and the contractor's already mobilized and ready to go. Even if it doesn't gain access to MoCA, it gains access to Accutronic.
For Accutronic, okay, so we're committed, that's going to happen, okay.
There was an issue with the pay app that was submitted, and staff has kicked that back. So we have a very aggressive inspector who's out there every single day, making sure that what is submitted is actually being paid. So if you hear any rumblings, that's what that is.
So on Jackson Street, I think we've pretty much decided we're going to... Yeah, we're going to pause that. Okay. Blakey Lane is still in the engineering stage, and the insightful agreement has been complete, so we'll take that off. What did you want to say about MLK technology?
Can y'all
It's
advance the
also on
slides?
pause.
Somebody, CC or somebody?
Technology is also on pause for a discussion next month. Insightful report is complete. That wasn't the amount. What was the amount that we paid, Angela?
It was half of that.
So we've paid them roughly 25,000, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
We may be done.
Yes. And if I understood the board correctly, you're saying to go back and get 12.5 of that 25.
I believe that's correct.
Or some more information.
We just want what we paid.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, so on the city water funding and the fiber, are both of, is that correct, 2024 and 2025?
Correct.
So when exactly in 2024 will we be finished with the city water funding?
They pay in June.
Is that what it is?
That sounds right. I don't know that it was one of those things they passed similar to the way they did the street maintenance tax. So they tacked it on to the EDC so that we could spend on water and water conservation. And this will be the 10th year of, in FY 2024, we'll be done with it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay. Then, at this point in time, we will go into executive session. 5.A, the Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. 1, Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, and Section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property. That would be Project Jet. Number 2, Section 551.972, deliberation regarding real property. That's the value of real property at 108 Jackson Street in the Bastrop Business and Industrial Park. And then number 3, Section 551.972, deliberation regarding real property, request for land donation by Bastrop County Food Pantry. And then we will reconvene into open session to discuss, consider, or take any action necessary related to that executive session. Therefore, we are now in executive session. And it's thank you, it's 5:54. Thank you. It is now 6:20, and The BEDC Board of Directors is reconvening into open session to discuss, consider, and undertake any action necessary related to the executive session noted herein.
I'll make a motion that the executive director continue with discussions for the sale of the property at 108 Jackson Street.
A second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Well, that will finish up this portion of the show, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right. All right. All those approved? Yay. Thank you very much, everyone.
If you don't
I'm going to run